Hi, everyone. I'm Stefania Cartoni-Casamitjana. I am a PhD student in agronomy here at the UW Madison. And I will talk about establishment success of forages in renovated forests for silvopasture. And this is motivated by farms in Wisconsin that have some pockets of degraded forests that aren't currently being used by the farmers or as natural habitat. So silvopasture could be a way of getting farmers to be able to use these land. But first, what is silvopasture? And it is the intentional integration of tree, forage, and livestock production. It can be done or established in two ways. The first one is by addition, in which we have a pasture and you plant trees on it. And the other way is by subtraction, in which you have a forest and you remove trees or shrubs in order to establish forage later. In the research that I am doing, we're doing silvopasture by subtraction. So here we have this little diagram. If we start with a forest that is very dense and has a lot of shrubs in the understory, the first step is to restore or to manage this understory vegetation, and then some trees, remove the shrubs so that we get more light in. Then we revegetate with the forages that we want to establish. And finally, we're able to introduce livestock. And so it could look something like this in the picture. In my experiment, we are going up to the revegetation phase, and we are not introducing livestock yet. So the main challenge for silvopasture establishment in this way, by subtraction, is to manage the existing vegetation. This picture shows our research plots when we started, and it was mostly a wall of shrubs, and you couldn't really get in, and there was no way that animals would want to eat anything that was in there, or at least cattle. The main shrubs were buckthorn, honeysuckle, some multiflora rose, and other invasives. Then we restored. We did the first stage of this restoration, and we cleared the shrubs and some of the trees. So it looks something like this, a lot more open, a lot more light growing in. But a lot of the understory vegetation, like the other forbs and other shrubs, started growing back. And this would be how we want our research site to look, with a lot of light in between the trees and grasses that are able to grow so that they could be forage for livestock. So our first stage, we needed to control the shrubs. We did this with a combination of machinery, goat grazing, and herbicides over 2 consecutive years. So for our first year, we either forestry mowed or goat grazed. And in the second year, we split these treatments and we applied herbicides, targeted herbicides in specific shrubs that were invasive, or goats, a repeated goat grazing. So we chose these methods because there is a lot of interest in goat grazing as shrub control, but there's not a lot of information yet, and we wanted it to compare it to other methods that could be more intensive. So after 2 years, we measured the shrub density. We did this in 2023. We started the research in 2021. After 2 years of shrub control in 2023, we counted shrubs. And here you can see how the treatments differ. And the only one that showed a really significant difference to the control was mowing and herbicide. And that reduced the number of shrubs per square meter in our plots significantly. If we started with around 0.4 or 0.5 shrubs per square meter, the treatments managed this in different degrees, but the only one that really showed a difference was mowing and herbicide. And we also measured the costs. So the costs also vary a lot. The goat grazing management or control method cost around $2,500 per acre, and the goat and herbicide or the mowing on goats cost around $1,700 or $1,800, and the least expensive one was mowing followed by herbicides. And we measured recorded contract costs, labor, and supplies. So that's about the shrub control, but I'm here to talk more about the forage establishment. So now that we have the shrubs in varying degrees of control, we wanted to ask some questions about how to establish forage. The first question that we had was how to manage the existing vegetation, because as you see here in the picture, even if we control the shrubs, we still have a lot of resprouts of the shrubs or other forbs that will be competing with forages. And the other question that we have is what species are better suited for silvopasture? Since there is some information about species that might be tolerant to shade, but there isn't a lot of comparisons between species, so we wanted to do this. And okay, for our first question about how herbicide improved forage establishment, we applied glyphosate in the fall before planting, and we planted in the following spring. And this is how you see here on this strip delimited by the strips here, these lines, is where we planted forages after herbicide use. And in this area here, we didn't apply the herbicide. We still planted in this area. We wanted to compare. And you can see a clear difference. This is all the forage that's growing. This picture was taken in June. And here you can see the natural vegetation that was already in the site. And here in this graph is very clear and not really surprising. We measured the cover of forage grass in the area where we use herbicide, and we reached around an 80% of grass cover. And in the area where we didn't use herbicide, we reached around 50% of grass cover. And now our second question is which forage mixes or which species might be better suited for silvopasture. We compared 4 species or 4 mixes. The first mix is just orchard grass. The second mix, we established orchard grass and we added perennial rye, smooth brome, and meadow fescue. The third mix was orchard grass plus white and red clover. And the fourth mix was orchard grass plus all the grasses and plus all the legumes. So these are the results that we have. Just comparing what happens if we have orchard grass and if we add these other grasses. In the left hand, we have the measurements done in no herbicide area, and the right hand, the measurements done in the herbicide area. Since we already established that we had better cover in the herbicide area, I will mostly talk about this. And whether we added other grasses or not, the grass cover was the same. So there wasn't a really big difference, which is very interesting. So we could technically add these other species, perennial rye, smooth brome, and meadow fescue, if the farmer wanted, or if it was better for the species that they are using for livestock. And you will reach potentially the same cover percentage. So main conclusion, orchard grass or other species is the same. This is a close-up of how we saw this cover. This is in the herbicide sprayed areas. And this is the growth that we had in June last year. As others have mentioned, there was a drought, so that affected forage growth for sure. But you can see that there's still pretty good growth of brome and orchard grass and other species in the mix. And now if we go to the question of legumes, what happens if we have this orchard grass seeding and we add white and red clover, and we compare now the orchard grass plus the other grasses, and we add the red and white clover? The results are basically the same. Legumes don't increase grass cover, and in the no herbicide area, we saw that the grass cover was the same. But in the herbicide area, when we added legumes, we saw a decrease in the cover of grasses. And this graph only shows the orchard grass compared to the legumes, but the graphs for all the grasses compared to the legumes are the same. It's the same dynamic. So when we sprayed with herbicide, the legumes became a competition and they reduced the cover of grasses. However, the total cover of forage was the same. So if I added this little red block here, represents the cover that we had of legumes, which was around 20%. So we reached, in the end, the same amount of cover for forage, for total forage. And this is the growth that we had for, you can see the legumes here. It was mostly white clover, what was better established, more than red. And this other picture, you can see here, again, the drought. And the drought really affected cover, but in this right-hand side is a mix with grasses and, a mix with only grasses, and on the left-hand side is the grasses with clovers. So the initial conclusions that we have is that herbicide application before planting did increase grass establishment. The grass cover was similar, comparing only orchard grass or adding other grasses. And there is a trade-off between legumes and grasses, but overall forage was similar. And of course, the drought could have affected establishment. This year, we will measure biomass and cover again to be able to compare the cover of each species within the mix. So we will be able to compare perennial rice, smooth brome, meadow fescue, and orchard grass and how each species grows. And we will also take soil health measurements. And if you have any questions, here's my email, or if we have time now, I'll be able to answer anything that you need. Thank you.